Imagine a house with 4 walls and a roof. If the house burns down, the walls and roof collapse, but the space inside isn't affected. The space inside is not affected. You can hire an architect to design a new house, and after you build it, the space inside still hasn't been affected. By building a house, you're only dividing unbounded space into inside and outside. This division is artificial and it is an illusion. The ancient sages said that your body is like that house. It's built at birth, and over a lifetime, it changes and ultimately burns down when you die. Yet the Akasha, or soul space, or what we call Chitakash, remains unchanged. It remains unbounded. According to these ancient sages, the cause of all suffering, according to the first klesha, the first cause of suffering, is not knowing who you are. If you are the unbounded field, then death is not at all what we've feared. The purpose of death is to imagine yourself into a new form with a new location in space and time. In other words, you imagine yourself into this particular lifetime, and after death, you will dip back into the unknown to imagine your next form. We are the imagination of ourselves. I don't consider this a mystical conclusion, in part because I've had discussions with physicists who support this possibility, given all they know about the non-locality of energy and particles. But it's not my intention to convert you to a particular belief. It's not my intention. Right now, the only intention is to actually connect with the hidden reality, our source. Right now, you're bringing up new thoughts by actualizing your potential. It seems only reasonable that the same process produced who you are now. I own a TV set with a remote control, and when I push a button, I can change from CNN to MTV or PBS or any other channel. Until I press the remote, these programs do not exist on the screen. It's as if they don't exist at all. Yet I know that each program, complete and intact, is in the air as electromagnetic vibrations waiting to be selected. In the same way, you exist in the Chitakash before your body and mind pick up the signal and express it in the three-dimensional world. Your soul is like the multiple channels available on television. Your karma or actions picks the program. Without believing in either one, you still can appreciate the astonishing transition from a potential hanging around in space, as TV programs do, to a full-blown event in the three-dimensional world. What then will it be like when you die? It might be like changing channels. Imagination will continue to do what it has always been doing, popping new images up on the screen. Some traditions believe that there's a complex process of reliving karma when you die, so that a person can learn what this lifetime was about and prepare to make a new soul bargain for the next lifetime. The moment of death is described as having your life flash by before you, not at lightning speed as experienced by people when they're drowning, but slowly and with full understanding of every choice one has made since birth. Actually, if you practice recapitulation every day, as I do, then this becomes very easy. You can plan your next incarnation. If you're conditioned to think in terms of heaven and hell, going to one or the other might be your experience. Remember that the Christian conception of these places isn't the same as the Islamic version or the thousands of lokas in Tibetan Buddhism, which makes room for a multitude of worlds after death. The creative machinery of consciousness will produce the experience of that other place, while to someone who has had the same life under no such belief system, these images might appear to be a blissful dream or a reliving of collective fantasies, like fairy tales, or the unspooling of themes from childhood. But if you go to another world after death, that world will be in you as much as this one is. We are not in the world, remember? The world is in us. Does that mean heaven and hell are not real? Look out the window at a tree. It has no reality except as a specific space-time event being actualized out of the infinite potential of the field. Therefore, it's only fair to say that heaven and hell are just as real as that tree and just as unreal. The absolute break between life and death is an illusion. What bothers people about losing the body is that it seems like a terrible break or interruption. This interruption is imagined as going into the void. It is total personal extinction. Yet that perspective, which arouses huge fears, is limited to the ego. The ego craves continuity. It wants today to feel like an extension of yesterday. Without that thread to cling to, the journey day to day would feel disconnected, or so the ego fears. But how traumatized are you by having a new image come to mind or a new desire? You dip into the field of infinite possibilities for any new thought, returning with a specific image out of trillions that could possibly exist. At that moment, you aren't the person you were a second ago. So you're clinging to an illusion of continuity. Give it up this moment and you will fulfill St. Paul's dictum, to die unto death. You will realize that you have been discontinuous all along, constantly changing, constantly dipping into the ocean of possibilities to bring forth anything new. Death can be viewed as a total illusion because you're dead already. What you think of who you are in terms of I, me, and mine, when you think in terms of I, me, and mine, you are referring to your past, a time that is dead and gone. Its memories are relics of a time passed by. The ego keeps itself intact by repeating what it has already done and what it knows. Yet life is actually unknown, as it has to be if you are to ever conceive of new thoughts, new desires, and new experiences. By choosing to repeat the past, you're keeping life from renewing itself. Do you remember the first time you tasted ice cream? If not, look at a very young child encountering an ice cream cone. The look on the child's face tells you that she is lost in pure delight. But the second ice cream cone, although a child may beg and plead for it, is slightly less wonderful than the first. Each repetition pales by degrees because when you return to what you already know, it can't be experienced for the first time. That's why the great teacher said, step out of the river of memory and conditioning and see the world as if for the first time. Today, as much as you may like ice cream, the experience of eating it has become a habit. The sensation of taste hasn't changed, but you have. The bargain you made with your ego to keep I, me, and mine going on the same habitual tracks was a bad bargain. You have chosen the opposite of life, which is death. Technically speaking, even the tree outside your window is an image from the past. The instant you see it and process it in your brain, the tree has already moved on at the quantum level, flowing with the vibrating fabric of the universe. To be fully alive, you have to inject yourself into the non-local domain where new experiences are born. If you drop the pretense of being in the world, you will realize that you've always lived from the discontinuous, non-local place called the soul. When you die, you will enter the same unknown, and in that moment, you will have a good chance of feeling that you were never more alive. Why wait? You can be as alive as you want to be through a process known as surrender. This is the next step in conquering death. So far, the line that I've shared with you between life and death has become so blurry that it has almost disappeared. Surrender is the act of erasing the line entirely. When you can see yourself as the total cycle of death within life and life within death, you have surrendered, the mystic's most powerful tool against materialism. At the threshold of the one reality, the mystic gives up all need for boundaries and plunges directly into existence. The circle closes, and the mystic experiences himself or herself as the one reality. So next time, we will talk more about surrender. Surrender is the key to the mystery of existence. It's also called Ishwar Pranidhana, surrender to mystery.